Today, let us see some multiple choice questions and assertion reasoning questions related to lines and angles. This is our first question. What do you have? You have two parallel lines A, B and CD, and two angles are given. You have to find this angle. Now, the minute we hear the word two parallel lines and then we see a third line, we naturally rush to the conclusion that the third line will be a transversal, but in this form it is not. Why is that? A transversal, if you have two parallel lines, a transversal is the third line which cuts these two lines in two different points. Now, do you see that happening here? There is AB. This line cuts only AB. There is CD, but CD stops here. This line cuts only CD. So there is no common line which cuts these two angles. Then what do? Just extend it. See? Now you have two parallel lines and you have the third line cutting them in what? In two places. Now let me name this point X. So what do you have? Two parallel lines, a transversal. Then according to the corresponding angle rule, what do you have? This is 60 means this is 60. Now look at this line. What do you have? A linear pair, a straight line, which means it makes what? 180 degrees. 180, both of them together should be 180. If this is 110, this is 70. Now look at this. You have a very beautiful triangle here. Two of the angles are given, then the third should be what? 180 minus the sum of both, which means what? 50 degrees. So your first statement is correct. Now look at the next statement. What does it say? You have two parallel lines. Then it talks about the interior angles. What are the interior angles? There are four angles lying inside, and it says that each pair of consecutive means what? One coming next to another. These two are equal. Are they equal? No, they add up to 180. This plus this will be 180. If you take these two, again 180. These two, again 180. So the second statement is wrong. What are they? They are not equal. They are actually supplementary. Their sum will give you 180. Now look at this question. Again you have two statements. We have to find out if both are true, and we have to find out if the second one is the reason for the first statement to be true. Now what do we have here? We have three different lines, and we have to prove that the two of them are parallel. Now tell me, how will you prove that two lines A and B are parallel? To prove any two lines are parallel, you can do it using a line. Take any third line. If you prove that A is also parallel to that line, B is also parallel to that line, then that will mean that A and B are parallel to each other. That is using a third line. If you are given two lines, take a third line and you can prove that these two are parallel. Another way is take the two lines that you are given, consider a transversal and show that any of the usual angles that you take, for example, two corresponding angles are equal, or two alternate interior angles are equal. So you can prove two lines are parallel using any of these two methods. Either take a third line, or with already you have, take a transversal and find out more information about the angles that it makes. Now look at the first statement. What is given? X and Y are same. What does that mean? What are X and Y? X and Y are the two corresponding angles. So that means if the corresponding angles are equal, that means what? L1 and L2 are parallel. Now look at the next information given. A and B are equal when you have two lines and a third line cuts them in such a way that the corresponding angles are equal. What does that mean? These two lines are also parallel. So first you proved L1 parallel to L2. Second, you proved L2 parallel to L3. That would mean what? L1 parallel to L3. So the first statement is correct. Look at the second statement. You have two lines. You have no idea whether they are parallel or not. You have no idea. What you have is a third line intersecting them. In what way? In such a way that the corresponding angles are equal. Then that means the two lines are parallel. That is exactly correct. Why? Because that is how you prove that two lines are parallel. Take a third line and prove their corresponding angles are equal, or their alternate interior angles are equal. So both the statements are correct, and the second one is the reason for the first one to be true. Now look at our third question. What do you have? You have two parallel lines L1 and L2. Again two parallel lines L3 and L4, and you see a Y here, a X here. What we have to do is find the connection between these two. But how do you find? They are in entirely different places. So let us find some way to connect them. What do we have? We have that these two angles are what? They are parallel. And consider this as a transversal which cuts them. So this will be the corresponding angle. So this will be X. Now consider the next set of parallel lines, which is L3 and L4, and consider this to be the transversal that cuts them. Then again here these two will be same, because again you have what? These are corresponding angles. But then look at this. What you have is a very beautiful straight line, which means what? X plus 2y is equal to 180, or in other words, y is equal to 90 degrees minus x by 2. This is your answer. Now look at this question. What do you see here? Or rather, what do you not see here? You do not see two parallel lines. You do not see a transversal cutting them in 2 points. But then what do you see? You see lots and lots of English alphabet X. What does that form? That forms vertically opposite angles. Take any vertex. Opposite. The name itself tells you the whole definition. Take a vertex, it lies in the opposite sides, or in other words, keep your pen like this. Whatever you see on the both the sides, they will be equal. Now see an X here. Do you see the X here? And what are these two angles? A and D. You have one equality here. Then keep your C here and see there. Your C and your F, your next equality. Then B and E. If you see, all of them form X. So your B and E is your next equality. All you have to do is check if these three statements here are correct. Then you have to choose one of these options. Look at the first one, A plus B. What is A equal to? D. And what is B equal to? It is E. Is that the option? No. What they have given is D plus C. So first option is wrong. Look at the next one. A plus C plus E. What are those angles? You have a A here, a C here, and a E here. How can that be 180? Look at this. This is how your line is formed. This line, you see this line? You will have A plus B plus C is 180 degrees. This is the line you want. These three angles will form what? 180 degrees. But they have given A plus C plus E. But then what? B is equal to E. Which means what? A instead of B, put E there. Your second statement is right. Now look at the third statement, B plus F. Instead of B, what can you put? You can put E. Instead of F, what can you put? You can put C. There, your third statement is also correct. The second, the last two are correct, which means this is the correct option. 2 and 3 only are correct. The first one is wrong. Again, you have two statements here. You have to check if both are correct and if the second one is the reason for the first one to be correct. Now, look at the statements. What do you have? You have two parallel lines, PQ and RS, and before you rush to think that there is a transversal, Look carefully. There is no one line cutting both of them. What cuts PQ is AC. It stops at this point. What cuts RS is BC. It stops at this point. You do not have the same line cutting both of them. You have two different lines, CA and CB. The minute it does this, that means it has stopped being a line. Now it has become an angle. Now what do you have to find? You have to find this angle here. What do? Why don't we construct a third line so that we get two different transversals? Why don't we do that? See, why don't we construct a third line? Let me name it XY. See, now look at what a beautiful situation we have here. Two parallel lines, one transversal. Two parallel lines, another transversal. That is all we need. If these two are parallel, then what will this angle be? This will be what? It will be the interior angle on the same side of the transversal. Then what is it? Their sum should be 180, which means this is 40. Now consider these two parallel lines. Look at the Z. Always watch out for this. What does this show? This is what? Alternate interior angles, which means what? Both are equal. A 50 here, a 40 here, together it is 90. Your first statement is correct. Look at the next one. If two parallel lines are intersected by a transversal, you have two parallel lines, then each pair of alternate interior angles are equal, which is a correct statement, and that is exactly what we did to prove this. So both are correct and 2 is the reason for 1. Now let me start with this question. What do you have? You have a triangle and you have two exterior angles. What are exterior angles? When you extend one side, then the angle that is formed here is known as the exterior angle. But please understand, it has to be an extension of one of the lines. You cannot have something which looks like this and call it a external angle. This, when you keep on extending this, the angle that you get is called the exterior angles. Now one of the angles of the triangle is given, it is 58. The other two are equal. If they are equal, let me call them x. So what do you have? 58 plus x is equal to what? It will be 180 degrees. That means your 2x will be what? It will be this. So your x is actually 61 degrees. So both of these angles are what? Both of them are 61 degrees. But then what do you have here? Did you see the straight line here? Then that means angle 2 plus angle 3 is 180 degrees. Found out that angle 2 is what? 61. So angle 3 is 180 minus 61, which is what? 119. Angle 3 is 119, but then the same scenario is going to be repeated here. 1 and 4 added will give you 180 because it is what? A linear pair. So if this is 61, this has to be 119. And remember, this also serves as a rule. If the two interior angles are equal, these two are equal, obviously it means the ones which come outside will also be equal. Now look at the second question. What do you have here? You have 3 angles, out of which 2 are in a ratio. A is to B is equal to 2 is to 3. Then you can take A as 2x and B as 3x. And what do you see here? Did you notice this? There is a right angle here. Both of them come together and form a right angle. A plus B gives a right angle. That means 2x plus 3x. 5x gives a right angle. That means x gives what? It is 18 degrees. But then remember, that is not your angle. Your angles are 2 into x and 3 into x. So these are the two angles A and B. Remember, your ratio is very sensitive to order. Do not change it. A relates to the first one, B relates to the second one. Do not get mixed up with them. A will be 2 into x and B will be 3 into x, but that is not our question. We have to find out what C is. Did you see this? A straight line here. So this one forms a straight line, which means what? A plus C should give you what? 180 degrees. But you have just now found A to be what? You have found it to be 36, which means what? This is the answer for C, which means this is the correct option. Now we come to this question. Before going to all of this x and 3 and all of that, look at the condition. You have an AC and B is said to be a point on AC. Now look at what all the conditions are. A, B is what? This much is what? X plus 3. B, C is what? 2x. This much is 2x. AC, the whole of this is what? 4x minus 5. Then how do you connect them with an equation? These two added should give you this, right? AB plus BC should give you AC. Add these two, you will get what? 3x plus 3. That should be equal to the whole length, which is what? 4x minus 5, which means what? X is equal to 8. So the value for x is 8. So this is your correct answer. Now we come to our last question. What are we given? We are given a rectangle. Whenever you are given a specific kind of a quadrilateral, a rectangle or a parallelogram or a trapezium, you need to know the properties of three things: its angles, its diagonals and its sides. Whenever you start with a question, suppose it is a parallelogram, you should know what is special about its angles, its diagonals and its sides. So here what do you have? You have a rectangle. What do you know about its angles? All the angles are 90 degrees. What do you know about its diagonals? They are equal. AC and BD are equal and they bisect each other, which means what? They cut each other into equal parts, which means if AC and BD are equal, then their half will be equal. Divide throughout by half. Their half will also be equal, but then it is said that it bisects it. What does bisect mean? Cut into two equal parts. Now half of AC is what? Half of AC you can take OA or OC. Both of this, when you take half of AC, you can take whichever you want, but then make such decisions very carefully. What are you asked? You are asked to find the x here. Now, which one is related to x? Take OC. You can take OA also. That also works fine. But take your decisions very carefully. Try to relate it either to what information is asked for or what is given. In both the cases, what do you see? The one which connects them is actually OC. So don't even think about OA. Same with BD. If you take half of BD, it can be either OD or it can be OB. Go for OB because OB is what we need. It is connected to each other. Now you have OC and OB are equal. Think about a triangle which connects all the things that we need. Obviously it is OBC. Now both are equal. That means this is x and this is x. But what do you have here? This forms a straight line, which means if this is 100, then this is 80. So that means what? 80 plus 2x will give you 180. That means x is equal to 50 degrees. Your x here is what? It is 50 degrees. Now it's time to wind up our class, but before I leave, let us do a brief revision. What did we learn so far? We learned about two parallel lines and a third line known as a transversal, which cuts them in 2 points, making 8 angles. But then if you think that, oh my god, I have to find 8 angles, the good news is you don't have to. Just find any one angle. Suppose this angle, done. With just this one angle, you can find out all the 8 of them. It is wonderful, isn't it? But how do you find? The first one is vertically opposite angles. What do you mean by vertically opposite? Look at a vertex. It lies on the opposite sides, vertically opposite. Remember the English alphabet X. It does not have to be perfectly X. It can even look like this. But remember, this is not vertically opposite. Do you see what is happening here? You have one line here, but the other line comes and stops here and then goes like this. It is not a straight line. This would be a straight line. This is not. So remember, what you are looking for is the English alphabet X. Now next, what do you have? Alternate interior angles. The alphabet you are looking for is Z. It does not have to be perfectly Z. It can even look like this. What is it? It is alternate interior. What is interior? Whatever comes inside. These 4 angles are interior, not what come outside. These 4 are exterior. 1, 2, 3, 4 are exterior. These 4 are interior and alternate. What do you mean by alternate? I go to the shopping mall on alternate days, which means what? I go on Wednesday, I leave Thursday, then I go Friday. I leave one day in between, which means start from here, leave one, go to the other one. These 2 will be equal. Start from here, leave this, go to the other one. These 2 will be equal. These are known as alternate interior angles, and remember the English alphabet is Z. Now what do you have? These are known as corresponding angles. Corresponding means their position will be same. 2 angles which are in the top right. These 2. Here top. Here top right. These 2 will be equal. What about left top? Here. See, this is in the left side and the top side. Left side and the top side. So that will be equal. Their position will be equal, which means what? They are corresponding angles. They will be equal. Remember F. Now we are done with all the equal angles, and the last 2 are linear pairs, which means what? They make 180 degrees. Whichever way you can find a straight line. Remember, it will form 180 here, 180 here. So if you have 4 angles looking like this, remember this is A, B, C, D. All of them added will give you what? 180 degrees. These last 2 are all about making 180. Either it is a straight line or what? It looks like this. In Tamil, this is the alphabet Pa, like pasta. This is how it looks. This one plus this one should give you what? 180 degrees. So that here, this part should give you 180 and this part should give you 180. And what are they? They are known as the angles on the same side of the transversal. Here you have the transversal, the same side of the transversal. These 2 will be linear pair. These 2 will give you 180 degrees, but the first one, the first 3 will give you what? Equal angles. So you see what the good news is? All you have to do is find one angle and then you can get all the other 8 of them. And inshallah, I'll meet you in another class. Till then, you take care. Assalamu alaikum.